The Weaver of Silence. In the village of Gunj, nestled in a crook of the mountains where the wind howled like a mourning wolf, and the river chattered like 1,000 gossiping grandmothers, silence was a forgotten dream. The village was not plagued by common noise, but by the shore devatas, noise spirits. They were mischievous, invisible imps that latched onto sounds and amplified them beyond reason. A baby's coo became a thunderclap. A farmer's sneeze became an avalanche. The clang of a blacksmith's hammer rang out for miles, shattering clay pots in their homes. The people of Gunj lived with their hands clamped over their ears, their conversations a series of frantic gestures, their lullabies sung in whispers that the spirits devoured and turned into shrieks. In this village lived Selina, a weaver whose ears had been sealed with a thick, pearly film since birth. The world was a silent movie to her. She saw the frantic dance of her neighbors' mouths, the trembling of leaves with no rustle, the frantic ringing of the temple bell that she felt as a vibration in her chest but never heard. Her silence was her sanctuary, and her loom was her voice. Selina wove with threads dyed in the hues of sunrise and storm clouds. Her fingers danced across the warp and weft with a knowing that transcended sound. She wove the village's fears into the fabric, the frantic energy of the noise into patterns so intricate they seemed to writhe. And then, something miraculous happened. She completed her first masterpiece, a tapestry of deep indigo and silver, depicting the river goddess calming the chattering stream. As she tied the final knot, a strange stillness fell over her cottage. The incessant, maddening gurgle of the river outside her window, which had been a constant, throbbing roar for everyone else, simply stopped. The sound was gone, absorbed into the threads of her tapestry, hanging there like a shimmering, captive fly in a web. The river still flowed, but it was as if its voice had been gently plucked from the air. The villagers, who had been cowering in their homes, noticed the change first. Their ears, so accustomed to the cacophony, ached with the new, strange peace. They traced the silence to Selina's cottage. They saw the tapestry, and in its shimmering depths, they could almost see the river's chatter, a captive silver light. They fell to their knees, weeping with relief. Selina, seeing their tears, felt a surge of purpose. For the first time, her deafness was not a lack, but a gift. She was the only one who could not be driven mad by the spirits, the only one who could see their chaotic energy without being deafened by it. From that day forward, she was the village's weaver of silence. She was given a grand hall, the best wool, and the most vibrant dyes. She worked tirelessly, her loom a gentle, rhythmic thump-thump she felt through the floorboards. She wove a tapestry of autumn leaves to capture the shrieking of the wind. She wove a tapestry of a sleeping child to absorb the hammering of the blacksmith. With each tapestry, a specific sound vanished from the world. The village of Gunj became an island of serenity. You could hear a pin drop, you could hear a flower petal fall. And in that pristine quiet, Selina's fame grew. She was no longer just Selina. She was the Vastra-Sant, the cloth saint. Elders bowed to her. Children left offerings of fragrant flowers at her feet. She was given the finest silks and a home built of fragrant sandalwood. She who had once been ignored and pitied for her deafness was now the most revered person in the village. She could ask for anything, the juiciest fruits, the warmest shawls, a husband of her choosing, and they would give it to her, for who could bear the return of the noise? And here in the heart of her power, the seed of a dark thought took root. One evening a young boy named Kiran, whose father was the blacksmith, approached her with eyes full of a different kind of pain. He stood before her, not bowing, but clutching a simple, undyed piece of cloth. He spoke, not knowing she couldn't hear. "Vastra-Sant," he said, his voice trembling. "The silence is worse." Selina, trained by years of watching lips, read his words. She tilted her head, a gesture of curiosity. "My father's hammer," Kiran continued, pointing to the still, silent forge on the hill. "He can't hear the ring of the steel to know if it is true. He has made a plow that shattered in the first furrow because he couldn't hear the weakness in the metal. The river is quiet, but the fishermen can no longer hear the splash of the fish. The wind is silent, and the farmers can't hear the change in its voice to predict the rain." He held out his simple cloth. "We are not grateful. We are deaf in a new way. You have taken away the world's voice, and we are lost. Please, give us back just one sound. the sound of my mother's lullaby." Selina read his plea, and her heart, which had grown fat on adoration, gave a painful lurch. She had been so focused on the problem of the noise that she hadn't considered the problem of the solution. Was a world without the chaos of sound also a world without the music of life? She looked at her tapestries, hanging on the walls of her great hall. They were beautiful, yes. They shimmered and told stories, but they were trophies of theft. She had not cured the village, she had muzzled it. That night, she sat before her loom, a new vision in her mind. She saw not a tapestry to capture a sound, but one to release them. She would weave a grand, unifying tapestry, a masterwork that would act not as a cage, but as a guide. It would not silence the spirits, but soothe them, teaching them harmony. She would weave the sounds of laughter, the song of the river, the ring of the hammer, and the whisper of the wind together into a single, beautiful symphony. But as she prepared to begin, an elder of the village council, a man named Harish, came to her. He did not bow. His face was stern. "We have heard the boy Kiran has spoken to you," he signed, for he knew a little of her language. "You must not listen to him. Vastra-Sant. The peace is too precious. We have built this new life on the quiet you have given us. Our children sleep through the night. Our crops are not beaten down by sonic winds. You are our savior. You must stay our savior." Selina looked at him. She saw the fear in his eyes, the fear of returning to the old chaos. She realized she had a choice. She could continue to weave her tapestries of capture, lording her power over a grateful but crippled village. She would be forever revered, forever first, forever safe. She would be a queen in a kingdom of muted subjects. Or she could do the thing that was infinitely harder. She could cure them. She could risk the chaos, risk the return of the cacophony, risk her own status. If she succeeded, she would be a weaver again, just a weaver. If she failed, the village would be plunged back into the old nightmare, and she would be the one who broke the silence. The choice was not between noise and silence. It was between the love of power and the power of love. A tear slipped down her cheek. She looked at the grand tapestries on the wall, each one a testament to her skill, a monument to her status. She touched the one she had woven for the river. It was cold and inert, a thing of beauty, but a thing of death. Her fingers, guided by a heart that remembered the boy's desperate plea, began to move. But she did not reach for the deep silencing dyes. She reached for the brightest colors she had, yellows like sunlight, oranges like fire, and a green as vibrant as new leaves. She began to weave, but her shuttle moved differently. She wove the pattern of the river's chatter, but not to contain it, to echo it. She wove the shape of the wind, but to dance with it. She worked for 7 days and 7 nights without rest. Harish and the elders came to her door, their faces pale with fear, begging her to stop. She looked at them and, with a strength born of a different kind of power, she gently pushed them away. On the 8th morning, the sun rose, and Selina tied the final knot of her master tapestry. It was not a single image, but a swirling vortex of life. A market scene, a river, a forge, a mother singing to a child. Every thread hummed with a potential energy. With a great shuddering sigh, she unfastened all the other tapestries from the walls. One by one, she carried them to the center of the village square, her silent procession watched by a crowd of terrified, hopeful faces. She laid them in a pile, and on top of them, she placed her final, living creation. She took a burning brand from a torch and touched it to the pile. The flames leapt up, consuming the tapestries of captivity, and as the fire devoured the threads, a miraculous thing happened. A low hum began to rise. It grew into a babble, then a chorus. The sounds, the river's gurgle, the wind's howl, the hammer's ring, all returned, but they were changed. They were softer, gentler, dancing in harmony as they rose from the flames, a symphony of life released from its shackles. Then, from the heart of the fire, the final, living tapestry began to glow. It did not burn, but rose up, shimmering like a mirage, and it unfurled across the entire sky. The noise spirits, the shore devatas, saw it. They saw the beauty of the harmonized sounds, and instead of latching onto them to amplify them into chaos, they were soothed. The wind whistled a pleasant tune. The river sang a gentle song. The blacksmith's hammer rang with a clear, true note. The village of Gunj was no longer silent, but it was, for the first time in generations, peaceful. Selina stood before the ashes of her former power. Her eyes met Kieran's. He smiled, and though she couldn't hear it, she could feel the joy radiating from his face. The elders bowed their heads, not in reverence to a god, but in gratitude to a wise woman. Harish came to her and placed a hand over his heart, a gesture of respect equal to her own. She had sacrificed her throne of silence and chosen the uncertain music of the world. She was no longer the weaver of silence, she was just Selina, the weaver. She had traded a kingdom of quiet for a single true melody. The song of a life lived in harmony with all its sounds. And for her, that was the most beautiful tapestry of all. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by the noise in your life? Social media, work, expectations? What would your personal tapestry of silence look like? Selina's final tapestry was woven with love, not control. When have you made a decision based on love instead of fear? Feel free to express yourself below.